Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us again. I am here with Ryan Fredregill, and we are recording an episode of From Compassion to the Conversation. Ryan is the funeral director, owner, and second generation funeral home director for Hendersons. How are we doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing really well. Hope you are too, Mike.
I'm doing great. So today, interesting episode. So we're going to answer a couple questions. What is direct cremation, and is it the right choice for the family? So what I wanted to ask you today, Ryan, is what exactly is direct cremation? How does it differ from other cremation options? And what do families need to know before choosing it?
Absolutely great question. We get a lot of questions, a lot of calls every day about, Des Moines cremation pricing, simple cremation pricing. We, as funeral directors and those in the funeral kind of working back end of things, consider direct cremation to be cremation with no services, very simple cremation with no services at all. That being said, it would include picking an individual up from Des Moines or the surrounding area, the box to physically be cremated, the cremation itself, and then from there, the basic urn for the ashes after the cremation. We would also have to get a cremation permit from a medical examiner, and then we would still get those death certificates for the family on however many they need or select, and we would walk them through typically what you're going to need death certificates for. So that is what we would consider to be a direct cremation, Mike.
Perfect. And I take it that with Henderson's, that is what is included in your service costs or whatever at Henderson's. Is that correct?
Correct. So a direct cremation, Henderson's Funeral Home in Des Moines, Iowa. The total would be for picking an individual up, the box to be cremated, the cremation itself, and the basic urn is $895. We have a $300 and $325 service fee for the overhead of the building and a little bit of staffing. We file your legal documentation, then I will also help you write an obituary and post it on our Facebook and website. That's $325. The medical examiner charges $75 for a death or a cremation permit. And then death certificates in Iowa are $15 each. So it would be $1,295 plus then death certificates in addition to that for a direct cremation in Des Moines or in Polk County. Anything farther that we have to drive out, we would add on a little bit of a removal fee. Farther we go, the little bit more the fee is for that. So prime example, Sioux City, Iowa would be $1,895 for Henderson's to handle that cremation.
Makes sense.
Iowa City would be $1,695 for Henderson's to handle the cremation in Iowa City. Again, we would have one crematory. Their loved one never leaves Henderson's Funeral and Cremation Care's care until we release the ashes back to the family.
Perfect. So that's a great peace of mind, knowing that you are actually receiving your loved ones. So, Ryan, let me ask you this: how does the cost of direct cremation compared to cremation with services or a traditional burial?
Absolutely. So cremation costs, Henderson's Funeral and Cremation Care specifically, are going to be well below the average cost of another funeral home or cremation provider in Iowa. But just kind of that difference would be Des Moines cremation with the medical examiner bottom line cost for Henderson's Funeral Home would be $1,295. If we're then going to do a memorial service after the cremation, set up at a church or here at the funeral home, it's $3,495, and then that's going to include everything that the $1,295 included, plus our staff preparing, planning, and executing a service for the family. It's also going to include the register book and some memorial folders or printed material for the family that we would hand out at the actual service. And then we're going to be there and conduct that service for you. The expenses you might be missing would be if we need to pay a celebrant or a minister, if you want some additional flowers, if we're going to actually bury at a cemetery, those fees would be in addition. And then from there, the next package up would be us picking your loved one up, preparing for a funeral, that embalming, the dressing, the casketing, cosmetizing, having a visitation, having a funeral, having the rental casket, then followed by cremation. It's also going to include the printed material for you. That package, all inclusive, would be $7,495.
Very good. So what I know that you were talking about some services that are available. What kinds of memorial services or celebrations can families still hold after direct cremation?
Absolutely. So families anymore, I think today's age, you hear the traditional funeral. Nothing seems to be traditional anymore, which I
No.
personally love. People really are designating services around for what was important for those loved ones' life, whether the service is at a golf course, whether the services are at fairgrounds, whether they're at concert grounds. There was one at Kinnick Stadium a couple of months back, and I know Cyclone fans might not like that, but us Hawk fans, I thought it was cool. And so again, there's just different things that people are doing that really is honoring their loved one's life, and they're doing it the way that they want to do it, not just the way that grandma and grandpa had their 45-minute church service at a church and then buried, and then you ate some ham sandwiches after. So things are changing. Again, some people call it better, some people call it worse, but that's what we're here for, is to walk those families through every situation, give them some options, and really it's about honoring the loved one's life and them coming together as a family and being there for one another.
That yeah, I love the care and consideration you take for families after, after a loved one passes. So how do and why do some families choose direct cremation over the other options that are available, Ryan?
So again, in my opinion, I think a lot of families are choosing direct cremation because it gives their family time to then come back together when it works for everybody to get together to have the service. So we're seeing people have family services 3 months later, 4 months later, because it allows everybody's schedule to come together and do that. I think that's the number one. Number two, I do think that with cremation being less expensive, I think that's been a driving force with the rise of cremation rate in Iowa, let alone in the nation. So the popularity continues to grow. It allows your services to be a lot more flexible than, having to have it within a certain time frame, because then the body is still present.
You bet. That makes complete sense. So what, in your opinion, what are some of the most common misconceptions about direct cremation?
I think the most common misconception is one, you have to have an embalming to view a loved one prior to cremation. You don't. We specifically at Hendersons Funeral and Cremation Care give the family an opportunity to do a private family viewing before that cremation. It would be scheduled. If you do bring us clothing, we'd be more than happy to have them dressed and prepared in a showful manner. From there, the cremation can happen. And then again, whenever it works for everybody to schedule that service out, you can do that. The other is, some people don't know that you can actually have a full funeral prior to a cremation. We hear that a lot as well. But again, it still allows that option, and it does still save the cemetery expense of the actual funeral part of it. So again, still a cost saving measure when it comes to cremation in Des Moines, cremation anywhere in Iowa specifically, by not having those cemetery expenses after, not have to have the vault, not have to have the vault delivery, not having to have the opening and closing of the grave, for a full casket is a savings for sure.
Oh, 100%. So, once you've made that decision, Ryan, if could you let me know how does Henderson's ensure every direct cremation is handled with dignity and respect?
Absolutely. So, without a doubt, your loved one is always taken great care of here at Henderson's, from the utmost care and respect, from the time we pick up to the time that we, hand the cremated remains back over to their loved one. So, dignity, respect, And again, well-trained staff. I think all of those are important things. And the other is your loved one never has to leave our care to be cremated. Most funeral homes in the Des Moines area anymore at least have their own crematory, but you do still see those outlying funeral homes where they don't have the opportunity to take care of those families they serve anymore because there is that other funeral home that they're going to.
You bet. And so I know we've been talking a lot about when you do choose direct cremation, and you've answered all, a lot of every important question about it. But when might direct cremation not be the best choice for a family?
In a sudden death, unexpected, young person. I think again, personal belief and from what I know as a funeral director and getting to see other people, I still think having that viewing for families, for younger kids to maybe come see a mom or a dad or a brother or sister. Um, it's a lot different when 98-year-old grandma or grandpa's in hospice and they've been there for 12 days. You know what's coming. You've had the time to go say goodbye. Direct cremation after that. Loved ones might not need that opportunity to see the person after they passed. Whereas, in my opinion, again, not just a direct cremation. You can still sure do cremation, but that viewing prior to cremation in a sudden event of somebody that has passed away with no rhyme or reason, seeing is believing starts the grief process just a little bit faster by having an opportunity to come spend time and say goodbye in a different setting than maybe where somebody got to see him prior.
No, I totally agree with you 100%. I mean, unfortunately, um, I was born with older parents, and I've been around it several times, and I agree with you. The visual puts closure in your brain. So that's my opinion. Um, Ryan, you've answered again. You've been amazing at answering all the questions that people have about direct cremation. And I really appreciate all your time and the compassion that Henderson's gives to each and every family.
Well, you're very welcome, Mike. And again, I appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks a lot, and I look forward to our next talk.